All right, welcome to Choco Tentment Mousse. This is an exciting recipe. Not only is it gonna taste great, but I'm really excited to crack open a young Thai coconut. So let's start there. Or before we do, let's look at what else we need. We need some coconut milk from the can, organic, BPA free, some raw almond butter or coconut butter, some cinnamon, some vanilla, a little bit of honey, and some raw cacao powder. You'll also need a blender. If you don't have a blender, you can use a food processor. It should work okay. But let's start off with this good old young coconut. So we're gonna look at how we open this first of all, and then we're gonna scoop out the meat and we'll move the coconut water inside elsewhere. So first of all, you're gonna need a meat cleaver like this bad boy. I bought this knife specifically for the sole purpose of opening coconuts because I don't really cleave meat. So here's what we're gonna do. This is what a young coconut looks like. An old coconut is like the small brown ones, those ones that we typically see. Those are the old ones. Those are very tough to open. These ones are young and they contain a fleshy like meat inside. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna chop on each side like so. Okay, so we're literally creating a square around the peak. Now this is gonna be, it could be a little bit messy, and some coconuts, if they're a little bit older, might be tougher to crack into than others. You also want to be careful that you don't use your hands on the coconut as you're chopping, just so that you don't lose a finger, okay? So you want to try to line this up, boom, right through. Perfect, so this is gonna be a good coconut because I can tell right away that that pierced the shell without a problem. So I'm gonna try to use a wide square as much as possible so that it gives me a lot of space to work in when I get inside. Okay, so if it doesn't open the first time, right, there might be one part of it that's still hanging on, so you can give it another little chop. And if you start getting sprayed with coconut water, then that's all good as well. That's part of the fun. So I'm just gonna use a fork to pry this open, unless I need to go in there a little bit more. Okay, so we're good, beautiful. So see how that comes off? It's awesome. Now inside we have this unbelievable natural sports drink. Okay, this is nature's sports drink right in here. It's the exact same profile as your blood plasma inside a coconut. So we definitely want to keep that. I'm gonna grab a glass and I'll pour the water into that. So we definitely don't want to waste that. Look at that, perfect pour. So if that's strained out, oh man, that is so good. So if you get water out of a coconut fresh like that, this like trumps any kind of store-bought boxed coconut water. This is very, very good. Delicious. Oh man, it tastes like the beach. It's delicious. Okay, so what we're interested for this recipe, what we're interested in is this stuff, the white flesh. Here's the cool part. You use a spoon and you literally just carve it off like that, okay? So we're gonna use as much of the flesh as possible from this one coconut, and we're gonna put it into the blender. So this is like, it's very cartilagey, you know, so the younger the coconut is, the more gelatinous this will be. So if it's a little bit tougher and a little bit thicker, then the coconut is probably a little bit older. But this is, I mean, full of, so coconut milk, right? This coconut milk concoction here comes from a combination of the coconut meat and the water. This is where, you know, it all begins with the coconut itself. So now we have this beautiful white kind of encasing inside. We're gonna use our spoon and we're gonna get right in there. Just scoop it all out, as much of it as possible. And you may have seen some chocolate mousses that are made with avocado, and I have this debate with Amy, my wife, all the time. I think that a mousse made from a base of coconut is like 1,000 times better. And I think you'll agree once you try this recipe. This is some of the most amazing stuff in terms of flavor, in terms of like texture. So I'm going to show you what this looks like in a second. So I'm just going to scoop all that out right into the blender. So what you have left inside is kind of like this darker shell, right? So once all the meat has been scooped out, and there's still some in there, you could probably get a little bit more out of that. So once it's been scooped out, you'll be left with this kind of dark shell. If not, you still have a lot of meat to work with. You want to try to get all that as much as you can and get it out, so we don't miss out on any of that goodness. Look at all that. Just scoop that out. You want to try to avoid getting any of the chunks of the shell. So right here, right, that's shell. You want to make sure you get that off, otherwise that's going to be a little bit gritty in your chocolate mousse. You can always just give it a rinse under the faucet if you want, if that helps. But you can just give it a quick investigation. Get rid of all those little bits of shell, especially when you get to the last little, parts of the meats that are just kind of hanging around. You just want to make sure you don't scoop up too much shell as you do that. Okay, so our coconut is done. We have exhausted our use of the coconut. Thank you very much for coming out. Okay, next we're going to take our canned coconut milk, and we're going to take about 3 tablespoons of coconut milk. Now the key here is that you'll notice that nothing's coming out. So this has been in the fridge, therefore it is solid. Okay, so I'm going to take, well, that's probably 2 tablespoons, and that's 3. Okay, so now it's not liquidized, so it's like full-on creamy. You have to keep this in the fridge for this recipe at least. Okay, next we're going to take, just looking at the recipe here to make sure we're on track. We're looking at about a 1/2 cup of almond butter. So again, I'll just use my spoon. This is raw almond butter. I don't have coconut butter, so I'm using raw almond butter. I'm gonna give it a little mix so that all the oils get mixed in. So I'll do about 3 tablespoons or so. So if you're, just going back to the coconut water for a second, if you're ever dehydrated, you're working out in the summer, it's hot outside, you're sweating a lot, this is what you want to rehydrate with. Man, that's probably some of the best coconut water I've ever had. Just this one coconut alone was, wow, that's really good. Damn. So that's the almond butter. The raw almond butter. Next we're going to put in a touch of vanilla extract. Vanilla extract is usually, it kind of goes hand in hand anytime you use chocolate. It enhances the flavor. We're going to put in a little dash of cinnamon. I'm going to put in about 2 teaspoons or so of honey. And if you ever have to add more in, you can. You don't have to. And we'll add in some raw cacao powder. We'll do about 1 tablespoon to begin with. If you ever want to add more, you can. Okay. So it also calls for a bit of coconut oil. I don't have any coconut oil, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just cheat a little bit, and I'm going to throw a little bit of coconut water in just to give us a little bit of fluidity. And let's give this a go in the good old Vitamix. I should plug it in probably. It's always a good thing to do. So let's have a look here. If we need to move some stuff down with the spatula, we can. That's looking pretty good. So I'm going to take my spatula, and I personally like having chocolate mousse with berries. So I'm going to serve it up in a little dish like this, and I've got some blueberries there that I'm going to pop on top. But let's just take some of this out. We'll pour it right into that little dish. So this is kind of like a lighter color chocolate mousse. That's because we've only used 1 tablespoon or so of cacao. If you want something a little bit more rich, you can add more cacao. Okay, so before I do anything with the berries, let's have a taste. Really nice, really nice. I find that having berries, especially when it's a more rich mousse, it just helps to cut it. This is very light, so it's not overly sweet, but really, really nice flavor, nice touch. There we go, our Choco Tentment Mousse with berries on top. You don't have to put the berries in, but I think they're a nice little touch. Enjoy.